Welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Whether it be good morning for you, good afternoon, or good evening, you are welcome. The topic for my chat today is virtual selling and going from good to great. And I intend looking at three areas. I've actually broken it down into a bit of a play, so I call it Act 1. What's going on in today's world? It's happening so fast. Act number 2, what kind of sales model do we need that is robust and dynamic and that can evolve with the moving times? And then number 3, something we lack and find difficult to do is how do we introduce the human touch into our sales process? Given the fact that everything now is AI, I mean, all of this stuff that we're doing now virtually is AI, and certainly wasn't the norm a few years ago. We were doing things like Skype, yes, but not this sophistication. So I hope today that when you leave, you have 2 to 3 outcomes, even small things, because what we're going to be looking at are what are the critical few things that you can take away with you and implement immediately. That's my goal. So let's get on to today's world. If we look at it, today's world pretty much is the same in terms of these criteria: levels of service, return on business case, references, brand, prices, terms, and product availability. When I say pretty much the same, I'm talking generally here. Because if companies find a competitive edge that is compelling, you'll find the competitors catch up very quickly. I had an experience years ago where I learned about this, everything being the same, when BMW brought out ABS braking. Now, in those times, ABS braking was the most revolutionary, most incredible thing that had happened. Well, you know what? Within 24 hours in South Korea, they had copied the same thing, and within 4 days, they were in marketing. So with the world being pretty much the same in terms of these criteria, what is going to be our product advantage if it's disappeared? And what it boils down to is the following. Everything depends on you. How do you come across? What kind of impact do you deliver when you first open your mouth and talk to a prospect? What kind of differentiation do you bring? Because you are going to be the differentiating factor. So you're no longer able to hide behind brochures and behind lovely slideshows and things like that. You become the differentiator. The good question here is, why should I change? Why can't I stay the same as I am? And it is a good question. However, if we look at this types of suppliers that we get the following. One would be a pure product supplier, and they simply deliver product. That sort of person would be an order taker. And in today's world, as we know, order takers and people like that have been totally and utterly automated and replaced. The next level up is we talk about, yes, we want to be great salespeople. We want to be great solution providers. Of course, we want to provide solutions, but we need today to go beyond that. We need to add value to every conversation, every touch point we have with a customer. We have to add value. And the last one, which is the aim of, I would say, in today's world, the aim of a professional salesperson is to become a trusted advisor. What does that actually mean? It means that you actually gain access to the inner sanctum, you gain their trust and respect, and they start to see you as a partner in them helping their business grow. Just one caveat here, be a bit careful, be smart here. Sometimes customers can basically over-rely on you and on your services. And do you get paid for that? No, you don't. So I would suggest that right at the beginning of the conversation with prospects is draw up a playing field and define the ground rules of how you're going to play before you get exploited. There's 2 ways we can create value as a pro. And the one is via adding economic value and adding relationship value. Those are the two main criteria that a buyer looks at. So we want to move from level 1, which is transactional, to level 2, which is adding in a bit more advice, to level 3, which gives a business case for why they should buy from you, to this level here, where this is what they expect. And I'm talking here about buyers. We spend a lot of time talking about a sales process. We very seldom talk about a buyer's process. So the buyer is looking to you to be strategic in your thinking and innovative and provide leadership. It's a huge shift in the way that salespeople have been perceived to be, what they are now, and what qualities will make up great salespeople in the future. This is an interesting one. Most salespeople, and we deal with them all the time, hide behind the fact that price is too high. This survey came out of RAIN in 2019, and it showed very clearly that price is the lowest reason to buy, and that the caliber of the professional at 40% is the reason to buy. So whichever way we look at it, our roles have changed fundamentally. They've been disrupted. This was a very also interesting survey from Forrester, 2021, done very recently in Feb, where they surveyed over 500 buyers across 5 countries. And they came up with these common mistakes that sellers make, according to buyers. Pushing product. That's your second-hand car salesperson. Not actually responsive to my questions, let alone doing any research on my company. People want to feel special. They want to know that you've put in the work, the effort to actually understand them better. Not prepared, lack of engagement. This is a real indictment on today's salesperson. If this is the way that buyers perceive us, we are in trouble. But we can get over it. We deal, as I said, with salespeople across the board in 9 countries, and we find that these mistakes happen in every culture, every country, doesn't matter where we sit. Salespeople tend to always fall into what's called the telling trap. The telling trap is the presentation trap. They tend to ask closed questions. What's the danger with closed questions? The danger is that people will often say no. If they had a choice between a yes or a no and they're not sure, people resort to a no because it's much more comfortable. It's safe. Salespeople sadly present too early. They are so consumed with their product, they're in love with their product, they're brainwashed by their product. And frankly, that's why they often fall in and stumble into this trap. And it's dangerous because how can you present until you know exactly what the needs are? You can't. It's physically impossible. The second act is follow a robust sales model. Now, if you look at today's world, there are so many different models out there. I just typed in sales training and I got nearly 3 million responses. These are different schools of thought on what the best approach to sales is. And I mean, all these buzzwords like spin, ADA, insight, band selling, and so on and so forth. In my mind, they're all a little bit misleading because there is a very logical approach to sales, which I'll share with you now. The problem here is that we're gullible and we're naive and we want to learn, which is great. And we start to read the wrong advice. And I've found when I've dug deeper into these schools of thought, you'll find that it's usually a successful salesperson who has done well, and now they write a little bit about it, a few blogs which develop into a book, and suddenly they become a great author and a great presenter, and people buy them because of their success. I don't believe that. I think there's too much nonsense out there on the web. And so that's why I bring you back to a basic, commonsensical approach to selling. So let's start off with our robust model. Well, we don't have a business if we don't have a prospect. So that's got to come in as number 1. Qualifying in this sense means Are we talking to the key decision makers? How much time have you wasted? If I reflect on my life, I've wasted years on talking to the wrong people who are not empowered to make a decision. And here's a little tip for you. How do we disqualify suspects from clogging up our pipeline? And the way we do it is we apply an acronym called MAN. MAN stands for M equals money. Have they got the money? A stands for authority. Have they got the authority? And N for do they want to do it now? Now, if they conform to MAN, you'll find that they are usually a prospect. I think as salespeople, we are far too nice. We are far too courteous, and we don't actually engage in a courageous conversation with prospects and put them through this little acronym process because we're nervous to do it. We don't want to. It may sound rude. But apply MAN, and you'll suddenly find that 50% of the people sitting in your pipeline are suspects. So boot them out. Number 3, partnering, big one in today's world. How do we work together as partners? Together we solve issues. Together we solve problems. We are no longer, I'm trying to flog you something. It's not about that at all. The next one is discovering, creating needs. I would suggest in today's world, the buyer is a lot more sophisticated, they're a lot more discerning, and if they want something, they will go out there and get it fast. The internet is awash with information. So our job is more to create new solutions to issues that we find when we drill down into the client's problem areas. The 5th one, we all know about that one, involves what we call FAB. What is FAB? Features, advantages, benefits. And we still fall into that trap a lot more quickly because that's our comfort zone. We feel comfortable there. And you watch salespeople when there's a minute of silence or 30 seconds or 5 seconds of silence, it becomes uncomfortable. And where do they go? They hop straight into where they are comfortable, which is my product. Big advice here. For goodness sake, get divorced from your product. Get divorced from it when you're involved with a prospect. Seriously, it is the biggest trap around. I've written so much now about the presentation trap. Of course, we want to close. We want the money in the bank. And number 7 would be how to handle objections. And that can come in at any stage. Now, this is a logical approach to a sale involving, yes, some psychology as well. Not a lot, but some good understanding of social styles, transactional analysis, and so on and so forth. So anybody who says that a salesperson is just a salesperson, that is so untrue. When you're at the top of your game, you are an economist. You should know the market trends. You should know the sector that your prospect deals in. You should know world trends. And so you're an economist in that sense. You're also a psychologist because they need a shoulder to cry on now and again. You're a hell of a lot more than just a salesperson. You are a pro in your field. And it is so sad that we don't offer courses at universities or tertiary institutions in the area of sales. 70% of the world is made up of traders, negotiators, and so on. And yet that 70% aren't given these skills by the formal institutions. Here's a challenge for all salespeople, and this is for the pros who do this very well, is that when you meet a prospect, very often they come up with their issues, missing sales targets, absenteeism, productivity, or whatever it is. And we need to dig deeper because something is creating that. Now, if we're not a bit like a doctor and start to ask these W questions, where does the pain, what's going on, and drill deeper to find the cause. If we don't do that, guys, all we're doing is we're addressing symptoms. We're just putting a Band-Aid across it, which isn't good enough. So salespeople need to be very astute, the pros, at drilling deeper. And I've just used the example of a doctor. I mean, when you walk into a doctor's room, don't you find all these questions apply? Who, what, when, how long has this been going on for? Doctors are supremely good examples of excellent salespeople. What are they doing? They're trying to diagnose the cause. That's their job. Before they prescribe. Imagine walking into a doctor's rooms and they suddenly say, oh, I can see by the way you're walking that you've got pain in your leg. Here's a packet of pills. You'll be fine. How would you feel? Cheated. Would you go back? No. With these questioning skills, we need to be careful because most prospects are in some form of comfort zone. They might be a little bit discomforted by a need or a pain, but by and large, they're in what we call the comfort zone. Now, if we push them through our questioning techniques that I've just showed you, the 5 whiskeys in a hotel, we push them into the learning zone. That's fantastic because that means that they are receptive to learning and we can start to work with them. Now, don't be like a policeman and interrogate them and push them too far. Otherwise, they go into what's called the paralysis zone where everything shuts down. So our intention here is to disrupt their pattern of thinking, but not to the extreme, but to make them open, to make them really realize they've got a hell of a big pain, not just a small pain. And then you start to realize this lovely position of being the trusted advisor. The last act, how do we bring the human touch into this technology? Guys, if we're not comfortable with technology, we are finished. If I can, at my age, get into this virtual world, and I must say with a huge amount of discomfort, all of you youngsters can do it. Some virtual tools that are fantastic. Goodness sake, use the whiteboard in conversations with your prospects. Why use a whiteboard? Because when you're talking to people, the whiteboard is visible to the prospect and is visible to you. So as you take notes, they are very transparent, they're very open, and you underline the pain points and so on and so forth. It is very, very real. It's totally transparent and authentic. And every time you write something down, you ask the prospect, is that correct? Is that how I interpreted you correctly? Is this, and what would this lead to? And then you move on to the second pain point and so on. So it's very open now. Sales is an open process. You can't get away with promotions that are a bit dicey or discounting it's a bit dicey. The world won't let you. Social media is too fast. It's instantaneous and it's not worth it. And secondly, it's not right either because there's no integrity there. And whilst you're on calls, here's a tip, a huge one. Whilst you're on virtual calls, do schedule another date with the prospect before you get off it. Because what tends to happen is we finish a call and then we try and get back to the prospect and they've suddenly gone into hiding, into what's called a 90-day hiding. They're not available. So we need to schedule and prevent what is called a TIO. A TIO is this dreaded phrase. I want to think it over. What the hell do they want to think over? You are the professional. Whilst you're present with them, brainstorm and work out what it is that they want to think over. I believe we should be a lot more courageous. I've said that before with our questions. So if somebody says to me, I want to think it over, I do ask them, what is it that you want to specifically think over? And I push them on that. I don't want to see that as an excuse. Google Alerts is a marvelous tool. If those of you who don't use it, I won't spend long on it. Go and Google it. Put down every hot prospect in Google Alerts, and every week it will notify you of the newsworthy items that prospect has created and in different types of media. It is a fantastic, most underutilized tool in a toolkit. Now, we still expect the human touch in terms of sales, and we can't get it with virtual. So how do we get a human touch going? We need to add interactivity into the meetings. We need to add in the polls. That's why I got you involved. I wanted you engaged in what I was doing. I don't want you to be watching this like a YouTube video. Build in a lot of extra polls, quizzes, question and answers, which we'll have today as well. Now that we know, and I'm afraid there's not much we can do about it. Sometimes we bring in a technical person, an expert, and then we all know highly technical people are analytical. They're not very good at being amiables and extroverts. So I'm suggesting you learn how to present and leave some experts out if they're not good enough. Now, can you learn it if you don't have it? Yes, you can, because sales skills consist of three things: knowledge, attitude, and skills. Knowledge you can find, skills you can acquire, attitude. Have you got the attitude? Have you got the attitude that my burning desire or my desire to achieve this goal is so burning that I will do a lot of have to activities in order to achieve it? And I don't mind doing those have to activities because my goal is such a burning desire. So yes, you can change. Are salespeople born or bred? I believe that you can breed them as long as the attitude is there. Very important point. Let's take today's structure. The story that I wrote out, I showed you at the beginning. People make the mistake that slides will sell a presentation. It won't. Slides don't sell. It's your story that sells. So make sure you're clear on your structure, clear about your story, and then decide on the visuals. And if you know the structure, then you won't have this concern running through your mind about what was I going to say next. We know that fear can't be erased. The real question you need to ask yourselves, am I prepared to do the have-to activities to achieve my want-to goal? Something goes wrong, well, at worst, we can panic, and we know that makes it worse and worse and worse. In a moment of total and utter panic, I locked out at the MD of a company. I was with his group of people, and I locked him out by mistake because he was basically sitting there chewing a sandwich and on the cell phone and attending our meeting, and I just thought it was so rude. So what I meant to do was put him in the waiting room in the lobby. By mistake, I pressed the wrong button. He was locked out. He phoned my PA, and Colette came running through and said, "Mr. Wright is furious." So what I'm saying here is I pressed the wrong button. That's what happened. I didn't mean to lock him out. I meant just to put him in the waiting room. We know that. Sports people know that. Never go live with notes. I want to share with you my structure for today. Look at that. Oh, goodness me. I think we're on to page 5. Now imagine if I said to you, okay, I'm just going to read through my notes and we're going to have a nice time. Doesn't work like that. Just do the notes and then go live without them. And then once you've finished, I'm afraid the journey never ends. It goes on and on and on. Add a few personal stories in, like I did about Mr. Wright, who was locked out of the room. Ultimately, bottom line is be you. I'm amazed that salespeople freeze. They think there's a business mode for business, and there is obviously a casual mode for when you're meeting with your friends. But I try and make all of my meetings casual, informal, as if I'm talking to a friend. I don't want to freeze up and become something I'm not, because people can pick that up straight away, and they can smell a salesperson when they become too frigid. So the best way to be is natural and real. Guys, I hope that you have as a takeaway 1 or 2 points from this meeting. And I could go on for a long time because I love what I do. But I love also sharing with you some of these thoughts. And I do trust and hope that you walk away with 2 or 3 takeaways. So thank you very much. Okay. How do I ensure that my prospecting pipeline, that means from the beginning of the journey to the close, is healthy? I would say that sales managers create an issue with questions like, how full is your pipeline? So they're looking at quantity. And if you've got a low amount of prospects in the pipeline, you get into trouble. And you start to cram them with people who are suspects. How do you tell if it's healthy? Is if there's movement. See it as a pipeline. So if there is constant movement from the beginning phase to the opportunity to the pain points, to a real opportunity to close. As long as there's movement, we know we're getting there. If there's no movement, chuck them out. Number of ways. I would certainly go a LinkedIn route, but the first route that I would go, I would ask my existing loyal customers for referrals. I don't know why we don't ask for referrals. Find your loyal existing customers and ask them if they would open up the door for you. Would they warm up a meeting? So your existing clients are untapped and they have huge potential to open up doors for you. They've got suppliers as well, not just their customers. So I would start with your existing client base, then obviously I'd go to LinkedIn. There's a lot more hard work there, and that's a topic on its own. But I would start with existing customers. So price objections, as we saw in one of my slides there, only I think applies to about 18% of the buyers. Everybody's going to object about price, especially buyers. They've been taught to. It's the way to do things. So I would suggest that we need to go, if somebody gives us a price objection, we need to go back to what kind of pain points did we uncover, what kind of value did we add, and get agreement on each point. Because when a person asks about price, they are myopic. It's just tunnel vision. And they forget about the pluses that they told you earlier on when you were doing your discovery phase. They forget about that and they just focus on price. So we need to get their mind off price and see all of these extra things that add to status, convenience, durability. Those are the reasons why buyers buy. I can go on for a long time here, but a price objection, first of all, is relax. Don't interrupt. And take it easy, because quite frankly, they just talk to do it. Presenting the features, advantages, and benefits of your product. When I receive these LinkedIn emails with PDFs, this is all about us. Guys, people don't give a damn really about your company, how many years it's been in existence, how fantastic you are in the marketplace, how stable. People don't want to know about your past. They don't want to know how fantastic you are. So what we're doing is we are just flooding them with information about how fantastic our product is, which is an absolute thing to avoid completely. I would spin it around and I would ask them, when it comes to a buying decision, what are the criteria that they look at first? And could they name 2 or 3 criteria? So I would turn it around and get them to start to define how they break down their criteria when they buy. I'd come back to how I answered the previous couple of questions, is that sales managers and sales directors, what they tend to do is they think that the close is the big problem, because that's the kind of towards the end of the pipeline, and it's the next step is money in the bank. I would actually take it very easy and go backwards and say that the close starts at the very beginning. From the moment you make a virtual contact, from the very first few words that you say, you are developing a relationship, a trust, or you aren't. So you need to put them in the center of the experience. You can't just close on information overload. I would say that the close isn't the problem. It's the beginning part. And get the beginning part right. In other words, relationship, trusted advisor, get that right. The end part will take. I never ask for a close. I mean, I basically just go along straight into, so when should we do this? I think the last point that I'd like to mention is we're quite proud of the fact that we were awarded the best sales training company in Southern Africa last year by EMEA, and that to us is a great accolade. All you've got to really do is type in Clive Price, and you'll find a lot of articles that I've written and 3 books and so on and so forth. You can find us on our website, And here are the details. Look under the peer training group and you'll find us there. I've given you my personal cell number, which is easy. And I urge you to email me as well, clive@mypeergroup.com. But yeah, look under peer training group or look under my name, Clive Price. And we'd love to help you and we'd love to assist you and love to work with you.